HS2 and one big fat lie. These are the interesting times. Hello everyone, my name's Matt Johnston and welcome to The Interesting Times, a show that looks and laughs at UK politics. Most of the news this week has been about transport, in particular HS2. Now, for those that don't know, HS stands for high speed, and HS2 will be the second high-speed train after HS1 between London St Pancras and the Channel Tunnel. And it's fair to say it's gone through its share of problems and indeed changes, certainly too many to fit into a show like this. But the idea is that at its heart it will run from Manchester through Birmingham to London and reach speeds of 225 miles per hour. It is an extremely ambitious and impressive project, and when completed will be the largest of its kind in Europe. Did I say when? Well, hold your horsepower, because there have been rumours abound that the link between Birmingham and Manchester isn't going ahead, and indeed the whole thing may be scrapped. Rumours that the Prime Minister and man responsible for driving us up the wall and round the bend, Rishi Sunak, was only too happy not to address.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that type of speculation, but what I would say is we're absolutely committed to levelling up and spreading opportunity around the country, but not just big rail projects, also local projects, improving local bus services, fixing potholes. All of these things make a difference to people's day-to-day lives, and that's what the government is getting on doing with record amounts of funding.
There's huge anxiety up north about HS2. Will he get the go-ahead to Manchester, yes or no?
Well, again, this kind of speculation that people are making is not right. I mean, we've got spades in the ground, we're getting on and delivering. Freeports are another good example of that, whether that's in Teesside or elsewhere, attracting new investment, new businesses coming in, all good examples of the government levelling up.
Yes, freeports, bus services, potholes, legs as well. Legs can also get you around the place, and this government is committed to levelling up legs, especially local legs, with record investment. You do know that one way to dismiss rumours is by dismissing rumours, don't you? Refusing to acknowledge rumours doesn't really make them go away. Unsurprisingly, this lack of assurance hasn't really reassured people and hasn't gone down well with Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, who had been buzzing about the city's latest transport addition.
Good news, Greater Manchester. The B network has landed. As we move towards an integrated travel network, we have officially taken over local control of our buses in parts of Greater Manchester. So, to spread the word, we've created a series of posters that only appear when it's raining. Using special hydrochromic paint, the posters turn yellow when the weather turns grey.
Well, that's useless. That means that from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. on July the 30th, those posters won't be visible.
Why is it that people in the north are always forced to choose? Why are we always treated as second-class citizens? If they leave a situation where the southern half of the country is connected by modern high-speed lines and the north of England is left with Victorian infrastructure, that is a recipe for the north-south divide to become a north-south chasm.
A north-south chasm with no network to get across. Also, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, wasn't happy, and he wasn't the only one.
A high-speed 2 that just consists of a train line from Birmingham to Old Oak Common will be a colossal waste of money. It will be a policy failure on epic levels, will be the laughingstock of the world.
If you're halfway through something and it's being terribly badly managed, really a national disgrace.
And you called it a national humiliation.
Laughingstock, national disgrace and national humiliation, and Boris Johnson nowhere in sight. Fingers crossed that the rumours are simply that, and this gets finished, as not everyone who has to travel around the country has access to a helicopter. Suella Braverman has spent the week making waves, probably in the hope that they'll be strong enough to push the boats back. On Sunday, she went very public with the backing of armed police in the wake of the shooting in Chris Cabba. And bearing in mind that this is part of a police ongoing investigation in which even journalists have to be careful what they write, it is quite something. But then she went full fascist by speaking at a US think tank to let people there know her thoughts on immigration. You know, in case none of us had quite got the memo up to that point.
A 2021 Gallup poll found that 16% of adults worldwide, around 900 million people, would like permanently to leave their own country.
You do know that they didn't interview 900 million people, right? and that people move for lots of different reasons. Because of climate, because of family, because of climate change, and yes, because of a better life, like, I don't know, your parents did.
37% of people living in sub-Saharan Africa, some 481 million people, and 27% of those living in the Middle East and North Africa, around 156 million, say they'd like to migrate. The ease with which some of them might reach Europe poses a unique and deepening challenge. The fact is that our countries are exceptionally attractive.
And to be fair, the Tories are doing everything they can to change that.
4% of those polled by Gallup, approximately 40 million people, named Britain as their preferred destination. 18%, approximately 162 million people, named the USA. These numbers are respectively more than half of our current total populations. Now, those in favour of a more liberal approach when it comes to legal migration tend to say at this point, so what?
No, I tend to say fuck off, as saying so what would assume I was listening to that inane guff emanating from that hole in your head. Fresh from his spat with Bev Turner, Tory boy Andrew Pearce wanted to show you could take the man out of GB News, but maybe try putting him back into GB News.
What a joke.
What
it
proportion
is
a
higher and higher number of people coming across from India. I don't know what the number is, but it's a higher number.
Well, Suella knows what the number is.
Over 120 boats. Over 100 boats.
Persecuted. And if someone has come here directly from a place of danger, and I stress directly from a place of danger because that's what the Refugee Convention says.
He's still putting out that nonsense about the Refugee Convention. Hang on. Yeah. Get me Mitt Lynch.
You are a liar. You're lying. You are a liar. And you're a liar. You're a liar.
Would they be allowed to stay in the UK?
If they'd come from where?
Rwanda.
Come from Rwanda?
Yeah. They'd stowed away on the plane on the way back and they were gay. Could they say, I need to stay because otherwise I'm going to be persecuted if I go back to Rwanda?
I think you'd have to look at the specifics of the case.
I'm
not an immigration lawyer.
OK, good point. Let's hear from an immigration lawyer.
The countries who take on the biggest number of asylum seekers are Colombia and Pakistan. And so neighbouring countries do take the brunt. And then in Europe, Germany takes pretty much the brunt, which we all know. And then the trickle down comes to the UK. Asylum seekers effectively don't have to claim asylum in the first country. That's the big myth.
And what about the UNHCR? Here's head of their news and media, Matthew Saltmarsh.
So what she's saying, Matthew, is that this looser interpretation, if you like, means 780 million was the figure that has been used, could have the right to move to another country. And that figure seems to be based on the total number of people who might have a well-founded fear of persecution for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion worldwide.
Well, I'm not sure where this 780 million figure comes from.
I think we all know where she gets that number from, which is why she couldn't sit down while she was delivering that speech. OK, for those lucky enough not to catch a word that the Home Secretary said during her visit to the US, there was a poll done in which 6 squillion persons said that they wanted to take over another country, and that 47 gazillion people said that they were coming to live in the UK. Travelling on a dinghy so big that it would level Surrey as it landed, and would take over all Greggs and make them sell halal sausage rolls, and outlaw laughing in a public place, and anyone putting the letters G and B together would be publicly flogged. So why is Suella Braverman making up stuff and pandering to poisonous populist prats? Well, it's Conservative Party conference starting this weekend. So could there be another agenda on the cards? Not according to Conservative MP for Bassett Law and man who publicly backed Boris Johnson and Liz Truss, now hoping for the hat-trick, Brendan Clark-Smith.
I did watch that speak and think, what's going on here? You'd think it would be the Prime Minister leading the charge to change international law, to get your partners on side around the world to come together on this. Do you think she'd make a good future leader?
This is, of course, part of the Prime Minister's plan. One of his top 5 priorities was to stop the boats. So he's very much there with his blessing there, very much trying to push forward the government's policy on it. And I'm a lot more positive than other people, I think, Sophie. I genuinely think that we can win this next general election, and Rishi Sunak is the person who's going to do that for us.
Regular viewers of the show will know Brendan as a man that supported a crowdfunder in his name for his re-election, and went very well for me, as I was able to make a short video about it. However, it seems that maybe I was too quick to mock, as Brendan has raised an eye-watering £540, enough apparently for a leaflet drop. Maybe he should start another crowdfunder, for a leaflet print. And that's it. No time to talk about the Conservative Party conference, which is due to take place starting Sunday in Manchester. And it's going to go as well as really you'd expect it to.
I mean, it is just the loss of control of the news agenda here is quite extraordinary.
I mean, you're seeing Tory conference agenda splattered over the papers. Rishi Sunak went as far as giving loads of projects code names so they didn't leak, and even the code names leaked.
But if it's Rishi Sunak giving them code names, then I don't think we can expect Black Hawk Rising or Eagle explosions. More like the dodo has landed, or lame duck leaders. No time to talk about Rishi Sunak's possible plans to cut inheritance tax, a possible wet dream for Walter Whiter than White. A heads up, we're going to be doing some fact checking as we go along, so apologies, there's going to be a lot of interruptions.
That great
twat! Sorry, that was an opinion, not a fact. Okay, let's keep going.
A number of sources close to the Prime Minister have confirmed reports that he is drawing up plans to cut and ultimately abolish inheritance tax. Despite what might seem counterintuitive, inheritance tax does not raise much money. Receipts reached a record of £7 billion this year.
Speaking personally, I think £7 billion is a lot of money, but others might not. And what it raises in taxes is certainly minute, but that's because it's set at such a rate that it only affects about 4% of the population.
If you're elderly and you think you may only have a few years to live and you have a capital gain, the combination of capital gains tax and inheritance tax means that on a property investment, £100 of gain becomes £43.20. So that is a tax rate of 28% on the gain, followed by inheritance tax at 40%.
Incorrect. The 40% isn't spread across the whole of the estate, but only on anything above the £325,000. Anything below that, you don't have to pay any inheritance tax.
Elderly allow their assets to stagnate. They don't sell and buy something new because they've got to be so successful with their investments.
I would strongly suggest that those coming to the end of their lives don't sell and get somewhere new for the same reasons that they don't get involved in bungee jumps, mixed martial arts or dogging. Because moving house is considered to be one of the most stressful things that you can do, and I'm sure having somewhere that's comfortable and familiar is important to them. More so, as already mentioned, 96% of people don't pay this tax, so this isn't really a consideration for them.
And then there are the exemptions on death duties, which are highly distorting. Take one example. Farmland is broadly exempt, but what this does is it puts up the price of farmland. But if you put up the price of farmland, the capital costs to the farmer of buying or renting land is higher, and what that means is that the cost of food for you and for me is higher.
Wait, I thought the high food prices were down to COVID and Putin's illegal war in Ukraine, and definitely not down to anything else. Shh. But anyway, if farmers aren't paying taxes on their land, that surely means that farmland is cheaper, so they can sell or buy it cheaper, which reduces the cost of farmland and thereby reduces the cost of food. Especially as food costs are more or less dictated by supermarkets rather than the farms anyway.
You want people to allocate to the most economically successful area that will give the best return, and don't distort it so that people put money in things purely for tax reasons.
No, he's actually right about this, but I thought I would highlight it as he has co-founded Somerset Capital Management LLP, a company which has, shall we say, some creative tax applications.
And it's also an unnatural tax.
As opposed to a natural tax? What would that even look like?
Will get whacked and their children will get whacked. It's in that sense a double tax.
Incorrect. If it's your property, you aren't being hit at all, and won't be as you're dead.
What do most parents want to do? They want to help their children have a good start in life.
You can actually give your children up to £500,000 without this tax added. Again, I think that's a lot, but I appreciate, again, others don't. Sorry, Jacob, you've been wrong about everything so far. Care for another go?
Getting rid of it could be an election winner.
It could, or it definitely couldn't.
I think the problem with getting rid of it at this point, this is a point that Labour have sort of flagged up very loudly and vocally, is that it would save Rishi Sunak's own family almost £300 million.
It becomes very politically awkward if in a general election the Labour Party were to start saying, how much would this one gain? How much would that one gain? How much would someone else gain? If there was no longer any inheritance tax.
No time to talk about Lawrence Fox getting cancelled by GB News for saying some pretty misogynistic stuff about Ava Evans, a political correspondent with Politics Joe. I won't put the exchange on here, which is frankly as puerile as it is disgusting. But suffice to say, if it was you and a bunch of mates in a pub and one of your mates said this, there would be an awkward silence. Then the rest of you would simultaneously and suddenly get a text telling you to come home and you would leave and set up your own WhatsApp group. Dan Wootton, on whose show Fox made these statements, released a statement himself saying he felt regret over the exchange, which is confusing because looking at the clip, he doesn't really look that regretful. Something the crap-arse lick Mr. Fox was only too keen to highlight in these exchange of tweets with Mr. Wootton after the show finished. And now Dan Wootton has been suspended. Oh, and Foxy Coxy also pointed out that GB News were also on board with the story and the direction it was going. Pass the popcorn, please. We appear to be entering the last phases of going bankrupt news. Thank you all so much for watching. And if you are enjoying these vids, then feel free to like, comment, subscribe and share. And I'll see you all soon. Take care.